Back in April 2022, I got the chance to my first ever visit up to Fårup Sommerland. This is one of Denmark's largest theme parks and was great to experience. However, even though my favourite of their coasters was Phoenix, there was one other roller coaster which really surprised me. This was of course Lynet. Making its debut back in 2008, this is one of only two Gerstlauer Launch Coasters to have ever been created. However, in terms of the appearance, Lynet has one of the best colour schemes at the park. This is due to the track being green and the supports being brown, and I have to say that the park definitely made a great decision. This is also due to it blending in with both the buildings and also the forest itself. But in terms of the theming, Lynet has a nice entrance along with a decent exit. However, what really surprised me was its queue line. This is due to having some nice props along with multiple different levels. However, something else to point out was that it also had a great station, and as much as it's not on the level of such rides as Storm Chaser at Paulton's Park, it was still great to see. However, once the air gates empty, we'll then board the trains, and unlike most Gerstlauers out there, all of its 4 trains can hold a total of 6 riders, meaning that it can hold a total of 960 guests per hour. And even though it's not a lot for a large-scale coaster, on my visit the most we had to wait was only 5 minutes. However, just like the track and supports, the trains also had a great colour scheme. This is due to them being both brown and also black, and I have to say that even though it's quite unusual for a coaster, it still looked amazing. Something else to point out was that it also had the Lynet logo on the front of the trains, and even though it was quite hard to spot, it was still great to see. However, once you put down your restraint, you'll realise that the coaster only has an over-the-shoulder restraint, and I have to say that it didn't really bother me throughout the ride. This is due to it still allowing for some great airtime and also being quite comfortable. However, in terms of the layout itself, Lynet starts off with a pre-drop section, and unlike most coasters out there, it didn't really do anything. However, after this you'll then head down the launch track, and this was by far the best part of the ride. This is due to being extremely powerful, along with it also being quite smooth. Something else to point out was that you also pass some great theming, and just like most launches out there, this was definitely best on the front row. But after this you'll then rise up into the outside top hat, and even though it only reaches a height of 66 feet, it still gives some great views over the park. However, what made this element so great was the airtime, and as much as it may not have been the level of such rides as Phoenix, it was still great to experience. However, after this you'll then head up into an airtime hill, and just like the outside top hat, this gives some great airtime along with some nice views, and even though the restraints can take away from some of the airtime, it didn't really bother me. However, next up was the mid-course brake run, and before riding it I wasn't actually expecting for this to be that great. However, after my 2 rides in it, I have to say that I didn't even slow down the train. However, right after this you'll then head down a twisted drop, and in my opinion this was by far the most underrated part of the coaster. This is due to being quite intense, along with it also just being a great drop. However, once you complete the twisted drop, the train will then bring you up into the 0G roll, and I have to say that you get some great hang time whilst heading through it. Something else to point out was that it also gives you a decent near miss, and as much as it wasn't that forceful, it still made for a fun element. But after this you'll then head through a turnaround section, and apart from a bit of hang time, this element didn't really do anything for me. But next up was the corkscrew, and this is definitely one of the best ones I've experienced. This is due to it giving some decent hang time, along with it also being quite intense, and just like the 0G roll, it also gave a great near miss with the station. However, after this you'll then head up into another mid-course brake run, and just like the first one, it gave a nice bit of airtime whilst heading into it. Next up, the train brings you through a helix, and I have to say this was actually quite intense, and as much as you can find these on most Gerstlauers out there, I have to say that due to it being okay to run it to the ground, it definitely made for one of my favourite elements. This is then before the coaster then brings you up into the final brake run, and in terms of the smoothness, Lynet is actually one of the smoothest roller coasters I've ridden, and before riding I wasn't actually expecting for it to be that comfortable. However, I have to say that after my 2 rides it's actually really smooth, and as much as it wasn't as smooth as such rides like Phoenix, I have to say that it definitely didn't disappoint. But something else which I really wanted to point out was the pacing, and I have to say that Lynet has some of the best pacing in the country. This is due to giving tons of airtime and it also never really slowing down. However, something else to point out was that Lynet definitely warms up throughout the day, and as much as my first ride was great, you could definitely feel the coaster slowing down at points. And something else to mention was that I also rode this coaster in early spring. However, if you'd like to experience this coaster at its full potential, I'd better recommend riding it within the summer months. However, in terms of what road to head to, on my visit I got the chance to experience both the front and also the back, and I have to say that I definitely prefer the front. This is due to getting some great airtime along with it also having a better sense of speed. However, even if this is the case, the back row still gets some great airtime. But what was my overall opinion on Lynet? Lynet is one of my favourite roller coasters in Europe. This is due to offering a great launch along with some decent inversions, and for my overall score I'd personally give it a 7 out of 10. However, what is your opinion on Lynet? Make sure to leave any thoughts down in the comments below. Thank you for watching, I'll see you in the next one.